My name is Susan Colbert. I am interviewing Mr. William Sivels on August 31st, 2020 at the Sparta Public Library in Sparta, Illinois. Mr. Sivels, where and when were you born?
August the 2nd, 1944, and I was born at the Hearing Hospital here in Illinois.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My dad is Carl Sivels, and he was a coal miner, and my mother is Cordelia Sivels. She's a parent, Natalie's parent.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
What are their names?
Live would be Jackie. Well, Jackie, she's here, and there's Marilyn. She's in Wisconsin, raised in Wisconsin. There's Keith. He's in Cup, Illinois, where I was born and raised. And there's Deborah. She's in Cup too. And Renee. She's in Atlanta, Georgia. New Orleans, Louisiana.
And you have siblings that are deceased also?
Yes.
Did any of your siblings serve in the military?
Yes, my brother, he served in the Army too, and he's deceased now, but he was born, and my half brother, he was in the Army too.
What were you doing before you joined the service?
I was a machine operator at Sparta Printing after I graduated out of high school. That's where I got a job there, and I worked there until I was drafted.
In what year did you join the service?
In July 1965.
And how long did you serve?
I was there 2 years.
Where were you living when you joined the service?
Sparta. I was in Sparta, Illinois. Because when I got this job up here, I stayed with my sister and my brother-in-law. I come up here to find for work because I was going to go to college to make some money. But then I got drafted after I got out of school, and that was it.
Which branch of the military did you serve?
United States Army.
And you said you were drafted.
Yes.
What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training?
Well, that's when we had went to Marion. That's where they called a lot of us there. That they would say we were going to the service. And they gave us a little Bible, and they told us that once you get that Bible, you're not coming back home, you're going. So when we left, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Do you recall your instructors?
Yes, my drilling sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood, they were some pretty good guys. He was Lieutenant Munford, Sergeant Munford. He was nice drilling sergeant too. And the commander was Captain Amaker, they call it Amaker. He was pretty nice too, but they knew their job.
What did you think of basic training?
It was rough, yes. Basic training, because I was going to be in an infantry unit, I guess. But we had to learn how the 40-yard low crawl. We had to learn hand-to-hand combat. We had to learn to get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time, eat stuff that oh man, what is this? This kind of thing. But all in all, it was pretty tough, but we made it through.
What was the worst part of boot camp?
I guess the worst part of boot camp was training how to take weapons and take them apart and put them back together at a certain time. Sometimes you have to get so good to where we had someone with blindfolded and just put parts here, and you have to know exactly where to get this and where to put that in. A lot of us had 2 or 3 times to get it. It was kind of tough. It's get kind of disgusted because you know where it is and know what to do, but other than that, I guess everything was pretty good. Okay.
Did you receive any specialized training?
Not really. Only specialized training I only had was my infantry training, and that's about all we did at Fort Leonard Wood at beginning of training. It wasn't nothing special, but we would just learn how to protect ourselves, save yourself, prevent things from happening, and knowing how to make decisions and how to act on those decisions and how to do the best you can to keep some of your other buddies' life, including yours and someone else's. It was quite a bit to go through, but all in all, it was worth it.
How did you adapt to military life, including the physical regimen, barracks, food, and social life?
It was kind of tough to get to adapting from what you come from, where you were, and what you used to do. It was just a whole metaphor. It was just a whole different thing. It was an exchange from one thing to another, and we didn't have enough time to really to get used to what you were doing. But all in all, it really wasn't that bad.
Did you like the food that you had in the barracks?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did, but sometimes you wish it was something else because you had it so many times. It's, oh man, it's the same thing over.
What did you do for socializing?
You mean
In the barracks?
Oh, we just had little get-togethers, talk, and then we had places where we could maybe go down, shoot a little pool or something like that, and just write letters to our parents or something. But it wasn't too much you could do because it was all just there, and you had to do it, and it was just different.
Where did you serve?
I served when I got drafted as Fort Leonard, Missouri. Then I went to AIT, that's Advanced Infantry Training, and that was Fort Dix, New Jersey. And Fort Dix, New Jersey, that's when I got orders to go overseas, go to Vietnam. And from there, after I put my time in Vietnam, but while I was there, I went on R, and after being in there so long, my R&R was his rest and recuperation, a break from where you are and what you were doing and where you were. And I went to Japan, and there I had about a week and a few days. And some of us went to Greece, some of us went to here, but I was lucky enough to meet up on the plane going over with the Air Force sergeant. And he had been over there in Japan 2 or 3 times. And me and him ran around together, and he showed me the ropes, and he knew his places to go and have fun.
How long were you in Vietnam?
1 year.
What was your first impression of Vietnam?
Wow. When I left from the United States and went for Hawaii, that was it was really beautiful. Then from there we went to Guam, and going to Vietnam, when we landed at Tan Son Nhut Air Base, and that was in Tan Son Nhut, and I looked, and it was just different. The people was just different. The whole atmosphere was something that you could just say, this is gonna take some time to get adjusted to. But every minute of the day, you have to pay attention to what you're doing and what was going on, because every day there was a different adjustment you have to do, and you have to kind of think quick and know exactly, because you couldn't talk any language, but we had interpreters and stuff like that, but it took some time to get adjusted to just looking at dryness, dust, jungle, and stuff like that. It was a big difference.
Do you have some other memories of that experience?
That one, on something like that, but only one is imagery or something like that. That's about all.
What kind of friendships did you form while you were serving, and with whom?
You mean over in Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
We had, whether it was blacks or whites, there was Vietnamese interpreters we had to learn, get along with. That wasn't no problem. There was Mexicans, there was Puerto Ricans. But the thing about it, after you were doing the same thing, you really didn't think about what nationality you were or what's this. It all we were almost like a family because we were doing the same thing, and we had to work together. And it takes time for you to try to learn everything. So we had to just jump in and get it there and learn quick. So it was really fun.
Did you stay in touch with some of your friends that you made while you were in Vietnam?
Yes, we had a couple of them. When we got over there, some of them was divided into different organizations. See, we were supposed to go to the 1st Cavalry Division. That was where we were supposed to go when we were supposed to go to Vietnam. But something had happened, and we did miss an orientation, which you had to have that in order to go over. And by that, when we got back and when we did go to Vietnam, we were with the 1st Division. And so that was just another place we went to, but it was pretty good.
How did you stay in touch with family and friends back home?
By writing letters, and that's about the only way we could have stayed. Mm-hmm. And maybe you write a letter, it might take you 2 or 3 days to get through it, to 4 or 5 paragraphs. Then it might take a couple of days to go there, but almost every evening, about some through the week, 2 or 3 days. Mail call, everybody come and you have some mail back. That's the only way we could in touch with them.
What did you do for recreation when you were off duty?
When we come from the field, if we've been on operation or something, we would come in. But what first thing you have to do, we would do, this was demanded from our company commander, is to clean your weapon. That was mandatory. Nobody would come in and not take a shower or go down to the PX, and then that weapon has to be clean. And I saw usually a platoon sergeant, they would come around and inspect. That was it. And after, whenever you get a credit on that, so many of us get passes to go to the PX or go down to the place and drink a beer or something like that, have a little fun. But other than that, everybody stayed on post, and we were at guard, putting guard duty, and just waiting until the next operation had come.
What was your most memorable experience while serving?
While we were over there, I would say one of the worst ones is when we lost our lieutenant Perriman. We had went to sweep. It was a hospital, VA hospital, that we had to go to. We had to fly out, and when we did fly, we landed. Our LZ was in a rice paddy, and from the rice paddy, we came, and then we had to go out to the wood line and clear things out. And we only found maybe a couple of them, but we knew they were there because you can see where they've been eating rice and stuff like that. And so we took about 40 minutes, close to an hour. Then when we came back, we come back to the LZ, and we would call the helicopters to come in to pick us up. But you just couldn't go right in the middle of the rice paddy because you didn't know who was out there on the other side. So actually we come around the side, and we worked our way in to wait on the helicopters. And while we were almost sitting there waiting, there was a big boom went out. And that was just about for maybe a couple, 6 feet, 8 feet maybe away from me and the company commander. Our platoon sergeant, but we were right next to him. And the explosion was so heavy to where I still pop. They used to strap them, but I didn't strap them at that time. And the impact, it was close to where we were. My helmet blew off, but I looked around. The lieutenant, he had something happen. He got hit. It was a claymore. A claymore mine was put in after we landed, and then went to check this place out. But coming back, they had moved in and set up some claymore mines. And while we waiting on the helicopters, bam, one went off, and it just messed him up. And I looked at me and my buddy, his name was Pugh. When we come in, we did a lot of playing cards. We were buddies together. And I said, Pugh, man, look, the lieutenant, something's wrong. And what had happened, I looked at him, he was bleeding. I said, the lieutenant got hit. And he said, Sivels, could you, when it went off, my ears just went boom, I couldn't hardly, they were just ringing. I couldn't hear nothing, I was doing this. So I took the lieutenant, I shook the lieutenant, and I tried to pull him, when I pulled him over, I seen that what had happened. And I said, "Sir, Lieutenant Perman." And he just let you look, but he was doing, shook his head. And I could see where I had him, he was in my arms, I had him. And his eyes were sort of still closing. And that was about one of the toughest things that I ever got. I tried it, we tried to bring him back, because when the helicopters came in, we wanted him to be one of the first to get out, to get medical training. We asked for the medic, and we called the medic. He came up and he did as much as he can, but we still had to, our perimeter, we still had to play with guard, and everything, stuff like that. But then when they came, we got the lieutenant. I tried to get him. He just wouldn't respond at all. And we put him on the helicopter, and I got him on the helicopter. I still pulled him to try to talk to him and keep him alive. But we went airborne, going and leaving back, and we got so far, a little far up, we just admitted when it was outcome. And I said, man, there he was. I'm here holding the lieutenant. He dies in my arm. That was kind of hard to take, because he was nice. He was a real nice lieutenant, and he was one, when he came over when he joined our unit, he was one, we had been over there so far, so long. He wanted to learn from what was going on. And we were glad to teach him, whether they were officer or what. We over there to do a job and save each other's life, regardless of your rank or what it is. When we working together, we tell him, say, man, Lieutenant, is there anything that you want to know? If he wasn't sure of anything, although he made the decisions, we were glad to help him, because he was wanting to be the leader and save a lot of our lives. But sometimes it's kind of hard to take when you got somebody dying in your arms. It's terrible.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I'm all right now.
Ready to go on?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think you've already answered this question maybe, but it was, what did you think of the people you served with?
For the officers, there was no problem. And as far as the non-commissioned officers, which is just sergeants and all, they had a job to do. We just had one who, he was very strict. I mean, you did things this way, you did it just the way he wanted to be done. Sometimes when it's wrong, you still have to do it that way. And sometimes we had to say, Sergeant, man, we tried this way and it wouldn't work. And after he heard 2 or 3 of us say that, well, then he kind of listened to us. Say, yes, guys, we're gonna do this together. And that's when we really come.
What was the highest rank you ever reached?
Special Force, which is Specialist Force, is right next to being E5, but I was Specialist Force.
What combat action did you witness?
Was actually that, and there was another incident where we had to go to the place because the 1st Cavalry was there, and they kind of got messed up, lost, and they didn't have nobody, so they called our unit in. We had just come in out of an operation, and we was in about a day and a half, and they called us, everybody come in, and they told us we had to leave the next day because we had to cover for some guys that were lost, and we were flying out the next morning. So we had to get our stuff together, make sure everything was ready, and that morning we did fly. When we flew out, we landed in this place where we were supposed to, they had problems, and what had happened, we pulled back, and went to the wood line, and came inside, but me and a guy named From, about another guy, and a sergeant. We had to go where you couldn't, it was so much jungle and you had to do shit. You just didn't see nothing. And it was so hot, so hot. It was hotter when you went in those jungles. Well, we had got about 35, maybe 40 yards. Then we already heard a carbine. Pow! Carbine went off. And we about just full apart. And they said, Sivels, you hear that? I said, man, what was that? We thought it was about cracking and we stepped on a piece of, broken bamboo or something. But bing, but when that went off, when we heard that shell, that was a carbine. And I don't care how many times or wherever you are, once you hear that, you'll live 100 years old, you'll never forget that one sign. But after that, my sergeant said, I'm hit. And we were crawling, and getting through it. And we said, man, we gotta get down. And we looked around, boom, another shot went out. And he got hit again, his lower leg, then he got hit again in his right back side. And he said, I can't move. I said, we gotta back out of here. We gotta get out of here. So we didn't know where the shot come from. We had to get our sergeant back out. So we grabbed him, was taking him back. Bam! Another went off. And when you start to go, whew, after that bullet's coming right next to you through your ears, like, man, this is terrible. We don't know where he's at. So what we did, the guy looked and said, Sivels, what you would do? I'm gonna just shoot. So we, side by side, we just rolled over side by side, put another magazine in a weapon, and said, man, he's got to be a sniper. He's got to be up here. So we just sprayed the whole area, sprayed it once. Bullet went out, magazine went out. We put another magazine in and did almost the same thing. And they said, let's move in. When we tried to move, we moved him out, began to hit again. So we must have hit that one who was doing it with the sniper who messed our sergeant up. And we come out and say, man, he's in bad shape. But when we got him out, we called off for the dust off. That's a helicopter, like an ambulance copter. And when he came to pull him up, to pick him up, he had to make a little circle around, make sure everything's all right. Or the RTO, the radio telephone operator, told me everything was fine. He began to sing when he come in. When he came in low, pow, pow, we had three of them go off. One of them hit that helicopter. When it hit that helicopter, we just seen, how oil, we must hit an oil line because there was black smoke coming from the back of it. And off the one who was flying the helicopter, you can see the helicopter doing like this. Say, man, he's gonna come down. But the officer, he brought it out to where we were. There wasn't a big crash, but when they hit the ground, bam, that was into that helicopter. He wasn't going nowhere else. So we just couldn't get him out, the sergeant. So the gunners on the helicopter, they came and helped us do a lot of the area, spraying the area. And we had to call in another helicopter after about 45 minutes, make sure we had everything under control to come in and take our sergeant and take the hospital. That's one of them. I have another if you want to hear it.
Yes.
Well, we were on operation now. What had happened, we had landed to ILZ. It was an opening. And then after that, we had landed. Well, we went to the end. It was mid-noon, but it was lunchtime, I guess you could say that. So we got us set up, make sure everything was clear, and everybody had an area in case something happened, we knew where everybody was. You just don't go in there and just say, hey, we here. No, you don't do that. You set up, and you find out, after you look at your maps, you find out exactly what's going on, what's supposed to be there. And what's supposed to be there, that's what you're going to look for when you get there. Then when we did that, well, Vietnamese man, little Vietnamese man, he had these little carts, and was a water buffalo pulling the carts, and he had wood, I guess, we know they burn a lot of wood and stuff like that. But the problem was, I was getting ready, everybody was getting ready to eat. I lit my little thing to set up to cook my dinner, and I heard a little noise, and they went, hey man, you can't get out, you can't do this. The water buffalo got scared of me. And what he did to the going up, he came into our compound, and he was so wild, he broke a loose from the cart. And after he broke a loose from the cart, the little fella couldn't have him. But we couldn't take no chances, but they do anything, they'll do anything. We just had a feeling that he was coming to our compound. We don't know who's in that under that wood. They come in just getting your form, then all at once, they shoot and kill it. They don't care. I guess you call them the suicide guys. That's what we were aware of. And after winning that, broke loose from the cart. I just went to start heating up my food. They said, "Hey, look at that, Nick. When I turned around, I laid my weapon right across. It was a big tree, and I laid it down. But you don't walk away from it that far, And I didn't. I was only about 8 feet, maybe 8 feet away from it. So what had happened, I took and turned around, tried to get my weapon, because I've seen this before out of Buffalo. By the time I went to get my weapon, he was on me. Boom, he had hit me, and I hit his hook. They got these horns, had got caught in between my clothing, and he had gored me about 2 inches, but it was about 1 inch away from my bone, from my leg bone. And the Dr. Killen, he was the one who told us, "Oh man, if he would hit you another half hour, you would have lost quite a bit here, And I couldn't move. I say, "Here he is." And they say, "Sivels, get down." What had happened, I got next in the street. They say, well, one of them try to get you. If he don't hit his target or kill you, he'll double back and get you, So that's what he was doing. He was coming back after me, so I just flopped over on the other side of the big log. And this dude, he was big. He was a big boy. And they said, get down, stay down. And next thing, about another 15 seconds, like everybody there was shooting at him. Tracer rounds and everything. I was laying up under that tree, and you could hear them rounds going. I was just saying, "Lord, don't let none of these rounds hit me." And it was so big, he was so mad that it took all, they shot and finally got him down. He was about 25 feet, I guess, before he got to the side of where I was. When I went to get up, I couldn't get up because I didn't know it, and I touched around him, and blood was coming out of my leg. And so I got up, and when I got up, the red ants had got hold of me, and I couldn't do nothing, so they had to call them. After everything was okay, they had to call the ambulance and the helicopter to get me out of the field, because I need medical the hospital, so that flew me to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, I guess. That's one.
How did you feel when witnessing casualties and destruction?
How do you mean?
I guess, how did you feel? You witnessed your lieutenant dying.
Yeah.
Did you witness other casualties and
Yes,
other destruction?
it was a couple of them, some of them, and I went to where my sergeant, we had set up together too, and we set up the artillery unit. They would prick the whole around the whole area, and IFO, the guy who calls the artillery in, because while we there at night, after some 30 minutes, 15 minutes, doom, 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 they do the whole area again all night to keep them from coming in. And while doing that, well, we setting up, and artillery, you could hear some go doom, and he might be 60 miles away, but in a second, bam, that stuff is up on you. Then artillery. He said, if you need to come closer or pull it back some. Well, he was walking the wing and said, man, bam, we see trees going up. I said, man, this stuff too close. Better get a hold. Tell that man to back this stuff up. And we told him after they got hold of him, they fired another round, the artillery unit. And it must have been wild or something, but it got into the one compound so much, some kind of way. It was either went wild or it went straight, but it hit our sergeant, and he lost his leg and stuff. It's kind of something you gotta put him up, his leg, poncho and something like that, And we got this little stick. It's called a short time stick. And he had about a week to go to rotate back to the States. Now, he didn't have to go on this operation, but that's something when you go over there and it's almost like going to a job and you know the guys you've been with and you're gonna miss them. It's just something that it does something to you, and you only have to be over there and come back to experience something like that. And he lost his leg, and we just feel so sorry for him. But that artillery round hit, and it hit the right next about 150 yards away from us. It was no big, like a house or something. It wasn't a big one, but I think they do that to make sure they do the light rounds or something like that would happen. It wouldn't be no great, big, heavy one. Then after they got everything straight, you could hear that coming in, and that was one of the bad things. We had to get him and put him on a helicopter and carry him.
How long were you on the front lines?
All our time over in Vietnam.
So the whole year?
The whole year, yes.
What were the living conditions like on the front lines?
Only wherever we went, so we would actually have to, we had to set up at night, at night. We had to dig a little foxholes, stuff like that. And it was in the jungle. You had to find a place that was still safe and away from most of the woodline, but you have to have so much area to cover, because you got another guy over here, he have to have so much area to cover too. And you're digging your foxhole to get in and stay forth at night, because at nighttime, artillery is gonna be blasting again around the compound all night long until you get up and child and take off for another operation.
Were you able to sleep?
In a way, yes, but you didn't sleep all night. After so many hours, each one would guard for 2 hours. Then the next one went down the line for another couple hours, all the way down the line until the end of the night. So you probably, once or twice, you would have maybe 1 or 2 hour guard duty while the rest of them sleep. Somebody's awake all the time. Somebody's alert all the time, and somebody's on the radio all the time, keeping them in contact with the place where your compound or something until morning time. But
where were you when your period of service was up?
after I come my time was up in Vietnam, I had my little sweat time stick to it. Got the guys, well, we're gonna get those of us drunk. I said, I didn't care, but I had 2 days. After 2 days, we went down. My stick got that long, and when we came back, when I got released, was this we called a re-up officer, a sergeant, trying to get you to re-enlist, something like that. But to stay over there another year, but not me, no. So I took it and said, no, I'm coming on home. And after that, when I got on, I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. That's my last 4 months, I believe. I rotated over 4 months before my time was up of my 2 years. And I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. That's the Armor Division. And a lot of guys coming back from 4th Division, that first cap. Well, the Armor Division was kind of need rebuild up. And a lot of us went there and helped rebuild there. Called short timers, like me, and stayed at there at times. And that's why when I got out at Fort Dix, New Jersey.
How did you return home?
From Fort Dix of Vietnam.
From Fort Dix.
From Fort Dix. When we got released, I just went to the place, and they gave us, your papers. You had to have so many shots and all this other kind of stuff. The clear. Well, I just was waiting when the Turks tossed into our base. I said, well, your plane goes at such and such a time. It was about another 100 of us, I guess, flew back. Oh, them planes were big. And back that time, you see something that big, you can step in that thing. You got to have where's the end of this thing?
Wait, so you flew back to where?
I flew back to California, Fort L, California. That's where we departed from. And back there, when we got out, then that's when I got another plane, and I came home, flew home took a couple changeovers, but I still had those 4 months to go, you know, when I went home, I come back. But after I finished that, when I left from Fort Dix, New Jersey, Fort Hood, Texas, that was the end. I got another plane and came home. I hit that airport in Marion, Illinois. I got out and kissed the ground. I thought I was crazy.
How were you received by your family and community?
Oh, good, real. Mm-hmm.
And how did you readjust to civilian life?
It was tough at times, but after I got out, it was just from, it was sometimes you would sleep and you couldn't sleep. Sometimes you didn't want to be around at home with some of them. You want to be by yourself sometimes. And you have a nightmare and all this kind of, you know, it was kind of, it takes me maybe 6 months to a year to really get to adjust, but it's still in you. It doesn't leave you. No, if they've been over there and say, hey man, I'm like, I don't believe you. You haven't been through no combat. You haven't been through nothing, but you must have been just working in an office or something like that.
So the memory of combat stays with you.
It'll be there.
Always.
It'll just be there. And like right now, when I'm in my room, when I start thinking of, I would like to be a room door because it breaks down, and you just don't want your family seeing crying as an old man, and I don't want them to know. I try to hide it because but there's nothing I can do. If it's gonna come down, it's gonna come down. I mean, I just learned to accept it. It's just something I've been through, and it ain't gonna go away. Nope.
Have you remained in contact with or reunited with fellow veterans?
Only one, and I met him at the airport in St. Louis Airport. I flew to one of my family reunions or something, and that's been 10 years, I guess. And they, you know, when I was out, after we was out, and somebody heard my someone said William Sivels, and we said William Sivels. The way I don't answer. He come walking over and he says, "Your name's Sivels?" And when I looked at his face, I knew exactly who he was. We used to shoot dice on the gallery, you know, play around, talk about a girlfriend, lie about a girlfriend, you know. But you just do that just to keep something going on, to keep your mind off of stuff or something. And I met him, we talked about 15, 20 minutes. And that's the only one since I've been out of service.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
No.
What have you done since departing the military?
I just came back and went back to work, I guess, in the job I was on, and just try to help other people do some things. I always like to volunteer on some things, but it's some I like to volunteer on, but I didn't want to get into it because it'd be too much I would have to say or something.
How did your service experiences affect your life?
It did quite a bit because I wasn't used to doing something like this. I didn't expect nothing like this would happen that I went through. But with the 2 years that I was with the Army, you know, I don't regret it. No. Even going to Vietnam and all that, it was a part of my life now that I'm glad that I was part of, and I'm glad it happened because it's been something I really missed. If I wouldn't have done that, I looked back and said, man, after I was 2 years, I would have missed all this. That's why I try to encourage a lot of the young guys, if you're not doing it, you go to the service, go learn something, learn how to do something. Even if I didn't want to go because I was drafted. I thought about drinking vinegar water and eating soap or anything to keep them going in. But when I went, I would say I'm glad. I'm really glad that that I was drafted. Because there was no way on heaven's earth I would volunteer. I don't care what, in a war or no war. I wasn't going to no service. No, that wasn't part of me. But when I was drafted, I hated, I cried, I did everything. My mama, she and my dad, they just couldn't take it much. But after I look back, that is 2 years, I would say, I deeply glad I was part of.
What key knowledge, skills, abilities, and experiences that you learned from military service would you say are the most valuable?
As far as work life, I've learned to value different things, learn how to, something that would be a use to me and use to someone else that I would help, but for just being a different person from a change of one thing to another, that I don't really have no regrets for. No.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
That's a good question. I would say that in a way to where wars are going to happen. This is going to happen. And by saying there shouldn't be no wars, no, the Bible says it's going to be wars and rumors of war. And there's no way we're going to stop it, but by being in that situation, it doesn't make no difference for me trying to stop something or try to make something different. But I'm kind of partial on that,
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview?
Far as young men or just plain or anybody?
Anybody?
If you haven't, I'll speak for you guys who's coming out of high school and someone to do something for their country. That's the thing to do. Air Force, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, even the National Guard. Be part of it. Be part of something that you can look back and say, this I was part of. Be part of the flag, your country. Do something to serve your country. Even if you don't think it's going to help. If you do, you're going to look back and say, hey, this I'm glad I did. And for the young guys, if you want to do better for yourself, you'll learn how to become a man when you get out. You learn respect in different ways. You learn how to get wrong with people. You learn how to work with people. That's one of the main things, because you're not going to be with just your nationality all the time. You're going to be with different people, and you're going to learn how to work with different people. That's one of the main things that's going to really help them. But you'll be surprised how much you could advance in knowledge from learning about other things, learning about the way the world is, by going to the service. I would just tell anyone, the first thing I would say before I even open my mouth, go to service. get something behind you.
Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed that should be added to this interview?
I think we did quite a bit.
And you received a medal, did you not?
Yes, I received, from when I would come in, when I first went in, I got a sharpshooter medal for a rifle, the Vietnam Service Medal, Vietnam member of the Third Nation. I got infantry service medal, but I got just something like that. But as far as like Purple Hearts and all that, no.
Those were medals, though.
Yeah, there are medals. But since you brought that up, and one asked me, so did you want a personal Purple Heart? Because you got hit by that one, a Purple Heart.
You didn't want a Purple Heart because you got caught by
this was in combat. This was just a bullfight.
This concludes our interview. Thank you for taking part in the interview, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.